There's only
fine.
so much to dive into this very surface level movie. So,
Hello, and welcome to Spooky Sips, where we put our love of horror movies into a podcast and sip some spirits along the way. I'm one of your hosts, Yvette, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Laura and Brianna.
Hello.
hey. All right. So we decided to check out. I don't even know how to introduce this movie. All right. Let me start over. Here we go. So we recently watched an Into the Dark episode or anthology, and we watched the Pure one. Part of why we decided to watch this is because if you remember our first Thanksgiving episode, Pilgrim is another one of the Into the Dark anthologies. So yeah, that's kind of like what got us into it. And the premise actually sounds pretty cool. So it's a group of young women who go to this camp/retreat with their fathers, and it's a purity retreat. Okay.
Yep. Father-daughter purity camp.
Yeah, that's basically what it's about. So we'll just start with that and go from there. I have a lot of opinions about this movie, but
I do as well.
There's a lot happening.
And I think also our guest from a couple of weeks ago, Shay, because she knew we watched Pilgrim, she also recommended this one. And I think because she probably knows it's going to lead to a good discussion.
Yeah. Shay, we apologize if there's any offensive opinions.
But
to each their own.
I know we'll get into it as we go, but I think we probably, like, all of us hated this movie.
I think a really good place to start with it is that, you know, like we've said, we don't discuss the movie until we're on the podcast with each other. However, we did share a couple initial takes, and both Yvette and I had the exact same comment about the opening music, just being like, WTF, this cheesy, awful music. Like, that just set the tone for what this movie was going to be.
It was just so generic. And it was also that, like, I don't know, I feel like this is more of a Netflix thing, but like I feel like, I don't know if you guys have watched like Love is Blind or like Netflix reality TV show where they'll play music that is clearly written for this exact scene, you know, like as it's happening. And that's how it felt, where it was like, I think it just kept saying like, oh, I have bad intentions and like blah, blah. And it's like, okay, I get it.
Yes.
You guys, you don't have to spell it out for me.
Very heavy-handed. Yeah.
The whole movie was very heavy-handed.
And not just now from the fathers. Gross. Anyways.
I think before we even got our amazing generic music, I think we had a dream.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Laura, I don't know if you have an analysis for this one.
Oh, I should get an analysis for this one. So why don't you describe the dream? And I will pull out my dream book.
So I think it starts, we meet the main character, Shay. And in the dream, she sees herself wearing a white dress with a white veil. And then she also sees herself in an all black dress with like a black veil. And I think they like see each other. So it's like you're seeing yourself twice. And I'm assuming it was supposed to be like one good, one evil, something like that.
And
they're out in the camp, I think, out in like the forest.
Yeah.
And I feel like I thought that scene was pretty creepy. I kind of liked the look of the veils. So I do feel like there was, you know, some scary stuff in this movie and some like creepy thing. And I actually, I thought that scene was done well. I liked the aesthetics of the dream. I thought it was pretty creepy.
Yeah.
So to start out analyzing the dream, we can look about, or we can talk about the colors. So if white is prominent in your dream, you're feeling hopeful and positive. It also is that you might be about to make a new start in life. So you should take note of what the dream is telling you, and you might need to rid yourself previous problems or responsibilities to be able to be ready to begin again.
Okay.
So we do know that Shay is starting this new relationship with her dad, and we'll talk about this, more as we go. But so she's doing this camp with her dad. We know that this is upcoming. It's a new relationship. So that could be what the white symbolizes. But when black emerges in your dream, you have to take this very seriously. If you encounter black objects or just general blackness, that might reflect feeling depression in your waking life. Or about someone who is special to you. So it's basically, it's like a symbol of bad things to come. It's not good. It's like a warning. So then, dreaming of a veil and of fancy dresses, because she was in both a fancy dress and a veil, those both actually indicate hiding something. Disguising something within yourself or hiding something. So it's really interesting because we've got both the white dress and the black dress, both have a veil, and both can be, whether is it that Shay is hiding this impure part of her personality and self from her dad, or is it that she is hiding this kind of desire and want to be pure?
Yeah.
So it's actually, I think it's pretty accurate to what we end up, it foreshadows what we end up seeing in the movie.
I agree.
With kind of this deception of parts of your personality. So that's Shay's dream.
Yeah.
I think that's probably pretty spot on and a good way to open the movie, because when it opens, after the dream, we're just thrown into this purity camp. Which is extremely uncomfortable. At least it was for me.
Yeah.
So I even wrote this down because it was just so obvious and just notable to me. The entire time I'm watching this movie, my brow was just furrowed. I was just like, grossed out and uncomfortable and annoyed and upset. The whole time I was just frowning and just grimacing at this movie.
Yeah, my only note for this part of the movie was instant incest vibes.
Yeah. Well, just okay.
Right out the gate.
I feel like we've been talking about how maybe this wasn't our favorite movie, but to play devil's advocate, clearly it invoked strong emotions. I do think we have to give it credit for that, where it was I hated all the dads. But that means that they did it well, right?
No,
where it's
true.
The whole setup of this camp is so weird and the dads are also uncomfortable. And it's I don't know, maybe that means they did a good job.
No, I think that's true because
they did.
We should not like them.
Exactly.
So they did pull that off.
Yeah.
And we've kind of talked about this before, where a lot of times horror movies do things to make you feel uncomfortable so that then the scary parts are scarier. And there was a ton of jump scares in this movie.
Yeah.
This movie was either just, I was annoyed and grossed out by the creepy incestual vibes, or I was scared.
Yeah.
Jump scare. So I think they did a good job of putting you in an uncomfortable state so that you're more susceptible to the jump scares.
Right.
Yeah. So I feel like we should talk about the whole, the history, the making of this camp.
Yeah.
I don't know the story, right? But the whole point of this camp is that they tell the story of Lilith is our setup. And the main dad who set up the camp, whose daughter is also at the camp, is we have to protect them from becoming Lilith. This is their whole motivation for setting up this camp.
I also made a note that anyone that refers to themselves as pastor gives me the instant ick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and okay, so the dad's name was Pastor, and then his name was Seth MacPherson, which I'm just why do I know that name?
Oh, Family Guy.
Is that his name?
Well,
Seth
MacFarland?
Yeah, MacFarland.
Right? Really maybe that's what because I was wait, Seth MacPherson, that's a person.
No, maybe that's it's really close to the Family Guy.
You're I know that guy.
That guy. Yeah, so he explains in this, sermon that he's doing that everyone thinks Adam and Eve are the first Adam's the first man and that Eve is the first woman, but really Eve was not the first woman. Lilith was the first woman, but she was a fornicator or something, I think he called her.
It was something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, she slept with a demon.
Yeah.
Oh, with a demon. Okay.
Yeah, right? Isn't that how it goes, I think?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, she fornicated with angels is what I read.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But he was like, but no angel would do that. Only a demon would or something like that.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why Eve had to be made from the rib of Adam because like he had to be her protector and her like owner almost.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So just very ultra conservative Christian gross vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so my question is that a real story? Is Lilith real?
Oh, we should look this up.
Because here's the
think
thing,
it
like,
is.
my dad is a priest and I have been in the church life my entire life. Like, I have never heard of this. So is it just like a tall tale or is it?
Well, also because we weren't in conservative.
No, right. We were in a very liberal church. So like, and not like overly Bible-y.
I don't know. Just a quick Google search would say that Lilith is the mother of Adam's demonic offspring.
Because I did a little bit of research, and as far as I could tell, there's actually no mention of Lilith in the Bible.
Okay.
Like at all. There's no.
Yeah, I don't think she's in the Bible, but I do think this is based off of a true story that exists somewhere in some religions.
It seems more the Jewish religion has some mentionings of Lilith. But
all right.
Yeah, so she is known as being this bad evil woman.
Yeah. Being banished from the Garden of Eden for not complying and obeying Adam.
Nice.
Which I will say the setup is kind of interesting.
No,
like that story, the premise, right, of Lilith, it's like, okay, that's actually kind of an interesting take. I mean, I feel like there have been a lot of movies based on like several religious things. This one was one I hadn't heard of before.
Agreed.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally.
No, I totally agree.
Also, I'm not having children, but especially after this movie, I find the name Lilith so beautiful.
Know,
if I
right?
were ever to have a girl, I would totally name her Lilith.
That's a pretty name. Yeah.
So, I don't know what that says about me, but I'm like, inspiring. I love her.
No, Lilith is great. In my notes, I think it was when he was explaining the story of Lilith, I just wrote in my notes, sorry, Lilith, straight to hell.
Straight to hell.
That's what I got.
Yep.
From that story.
Yep. So we see I guess maybe we should backtrack a little bit too, because they are at this camp, but we should say how they get to camp is we do see there's this car ride where Shay is driving with her dad and her sister Jo. And the car ride stuck out to me because Shay gets really sick and is vomiting.
Oh, yeah. I totally forgot about that scene.
Which I think then ends up being a kind of a symbol for, expelling like demon spirits and things. The fact that it physically was making her sick to head to this camp.
Yeah.
But I wanted to backtrack because we should kind of explain the family dynamics, whereas Jo has been coming with her dad to this, purity camp where they're at the end of the camp, there's this purity ball. She's been coming for years, but suddenly Shay is coming too, but they're the same age. And they start to explain that Shay is Jo's sister. But she's never been before. She's never been around. So what happens is that Shay's mom died, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so she met her dad for the first time like 2 months ago. And so
because now Shay and her mom are his side piece.
Yeah.
Like they're the side hustle.
Right.
Yeah. So when her mom died, she was able to like find her father and reconnect. And now you can tell there's a little contention between Joe and Shay, but they're still friendly enough with each other. You can tell Joe seems a little like attitude-y. But you know, it still is fine. Like,
yeah. I do wish with that they would have done just a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because that is kind of an interesting setup. And I wrote in my notes, like, okay, her mom just died. And it's like, oh, here's your dad that you have never talked to before. And I think we hear that it's been a couple months. Like, so they do not know each other at all. And she's going to this weird camp thing. And like, I wish they would have explored that just a tiny bit more. Cause like Shay's character could have been really interesting. I feel like she was more like going along with the flow, but like, I don't know, but not even that. I feel like they didn't even try to say like, oh, she's going along with the flow, you know, just as a way to cope, or like, I feel like they didn't. That's such an interesting and difficult background to have. And then I feel like they didn't do much with it.
No, they did not develop her character or any of the characters really very well.
Yeah. And that was like one of my biggest issues with it, was that like they made the mom's death so recent. Like she would not be referring to this guy as dad. And she does call him by his real name a few times, but like there's way too short of a period for this to be actually plausible. Like
we saw no side of her that you know was really mourning the loss of her mom. Like it was just like
and like the intimacy that is played out between the father and daughters is so uncomfortable. But especially imagine if like you just met this guy and you're like pledging your vagina to him. Like,
so upsetting. Every dad so there's multiple girls and dads that are you know at this camp, but every dad it's not only that they seem conservative and controlling of the women, but they are just so like giving these rapey vibes. Like they're just like the way they're looking at their daughters like in this sexual way, and it never outright becomes that in the movie, but you just get that vibe.
Well, and they choose their clothing, like they choose what dresses they wear, how they do their hair, like they're very controlling over their daughters.
Which again, that I feel like they actually did well. Like I do think we have to give them credit. Like I hated all of them. I hated the camp, but I hated it because they set it up well. Like they set it up in a way where I was like, no, this sucks. But also it was like, why isn't Shay questioning it? Like I wish that we would have had a little bit more of her wondering what this camp even is. I feel like she was a little too going with it in order to try to like be nice to her dad.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think they could have developed that a little bit more, like having it be that, you know, she's always been so desperate for a relationship with her dad that she's going to give this a try, even if she thinks it's kind of weird. And there was a little bit of that, but they could have done more.
I think a little bit more. So there's kind of two more main characters that we meet kind of early on, because Shay and Joe are staying in a cabin with two other girls. Lacey is one.
Yes.
And she is the daughter of the creator of this camp. Yes. And I'm forgetting the other girl's name.
So am I.
I do too. I don't remember her name either.
Oh shoot, I have no idea.
I think I only wrote down Shay, Lacey, Joe.
Look it up.
The one that she's the girl whose name we're looking up. She's the one that is like constantly taking pills, and her dad is like monitoring her physical exercise and her food, and like it's just super sad, her body image that this girl has, and how tightly it's controlled by her dad. Like she has to account for like every donut and every run she does, and it's like really sad.
Has to run at 5 a.m. and I'll do all these things. I think it's Kellyanne.
Kellyanne.
Yeah. Kellyanne.
Right. Okay.
So that's who's staying in the cabin.
Yep. And so the girls are, you know, some of them seem to buy into this purity camp a little bit more than others.
Yeah.
Jo clearly does not. I mean, she's been doing it. She still goes every year, but you can tell she's doing some more rebelling.
Yeah.
And she also encourages the other girls to rebel a bit as well. And so this is the next thing I kind of wrote down that happened is, so one night they decide Jo has a boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I forget if we meet the boys before or after or during the ritual.
They show up for the ritual.
For the ritual,
yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd already met, like, Jo has a boyfriend and then he's got some friends. But then the girls end up doing this ritual to, like, bring Lilith out. And so, okay, so they find this animal paw. And then they do this offering and they need all of the elements. They need something to symbolize earth and wind and water. And I was just like thinking of like Captain Planet or like Power Rangers or something. And then I also just wrote down, how do they know about this ritual? There was no sort of like explanation for how these women learned how to conjure up Lilith.
Well, the book.
What book?
Wait, did you miss that? Yeah, I think it was Jo who says that one day
you're right.
A book about Lilith just appeared on the shelf of their cabin.
In the cabin.
And she like read the entire thing. And she loves Lilith.
That's why I did see her reading something, but I didn't realize that that's where the ritual had I was just like, this is so random.
Well, that's why like I kind of almost wish that they would have been younger, like 14.
Honestly.
Because in actual situations that are in real life purity things, that is when it happens. Like there are actual churches that have purity contracts.
Yeah.
And it is when they're younger. But also it would have made more sense that they were like so gullible and you know what I mean? Like I almost wish they had just been a little bit younger.
Yeah.
And I would have maybe bought it.
Honestly, I hadn't thought about that because I do feel like they started to lose me a little bit kind of around this where it was like, I don't know. I think I wrote down like I feel like I'm just having a hard time getting like into the scary part of it.
I genuinely believed I was a witch when I was like in the 4th grade.
Yeah, you did.
Yes.
I really did.
You tried to poison me.
I did. I tried to kill Laura.
So she and her friend made a concoction. And they thought because they were witches, you must have been really mad at me or something.
We put a spell on it.
And you put a spell on it. And it was things like, I think it was like Hershey's cocoa powder mix and cat food.
And nutmeg and
like, but they like thought it was going to poison me or something.
Yeah.
Because but I saw the cat food in it. Like I saw like clearly
like little bits.
Yeah. So I didn't fall for it. You didn't get me.
So like I
this time
a bit of like where they're coming from in like believing they can like conjure. Like I get it, but if they had just been a little younger, I might have bought it a little better.
Yeah, honestly, I think that may have made it better because we would have believed more of like the innocence, and I think kind of going backwards, like why are they just kind of going along with this camp when clearly, especially near the end, we realize that Shay doesn't exactly agree with this whole setup,
right?
Where it's like I think we could have believed a lot more and forgiven more.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
And they do also show that this is a camp that they go to when they are younger.
Right. And they grow up.
So like I think Lacey, for example, has been pledging her purity or signing her purity contract for 10 years, I think they say.
Yeah.
So it is also for younger girls as well. Just it happened to be the main characters.
Right.
Or, the story that we saw, they were older at that point.
Yeah.
But just make them a couple years younger. It would have been better.
Yeah.
But I think maybe they needed them to be older because of what ends up happening,
right?
The corruption that ends up, going down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's at this point because they're older that they are finally starting to rebel.
Right. So they do their little ritual and like the wind blows and the candle goes. Like, what is it that happens? Something.
The candle turns. No. Okay. They do the ritual, and I think part of it is to blow out the candle to end it. And then the wind blows and then the candle lights back
That's
on.
right.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And it's like, oh my God, it worked.
Yes. Because that had never happened. I feel like we're supposed to get the idea that they do this
every year.
Every year.
Never happened.
Yeah.
And the boys had also shown up at this ritual.
Mm-hmm.
And during this ritual, the one boy, there's like a boy for each girl or something, I think.
They're really,
four boys,
there is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the one girl, Lacey, who is like super, you can tell she's very much bought into this chastity purity thing. She's uncomfortable with the ritual. She's like, no, I don't feel good about this. This isn't right. So I'm going to go. And so one of the boys walks her home. And we start to feel a little suspicious that maybe something might happen.
I do feel like Lacey's story was the most interesting, actually, out of all of them.
I agree.
Yeah, agreed.
And the actress played it, I think, really well.
Yeah.
Where it was like, yeah, like, you know, it was a little one-dimensional almost, where it's like, oh yeah, she like really buys into it. But I feel like that served her character well. It was like, yeah, she is fully invested into this, and she's now torn, right? Throughout the course of the camp, we see her juggling with different things.
Yeah.
Because she ends up liking the boy and wanting to do things with the boy. And so after the ritual, we do see Lilith in the woods.
Was it in the woods?
Yeah. Well, first we saw her in the woods, and then we also saw her. Then Shay starts to see her like in the mirror and stuff. But it started out in the background in the woods.
Yes.
So there were jump scares. I know I kind of already mentioned that, but I did like get scared a couple of times. But then there was almost too many.
Yes,
there's too many jump scares.
Yes, they kept doing.
A few got me.
I did not get that.
You didn't get like any like
at
little,
all from any of them.
Okay,
like instead I made fun of like the fact that the ghost at one point, I think they're like in the lake, and the ghost appears, and the ghost just goes rawr.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty.
Or like when she like finally like comes out in full, like the box dye red hair on her fucking killed me.
Bad.
I was like, are you kidding me? Like really? This biblical demoness character.
Yeah.
And you put Revlon 49 red on her. Get out of here.
It is interesting because when I was looking up the, Lilith just online, she also has red hair. So what is it about red-haired women that is so devilish?
Yeah.
I say
so devilish.
The one with red hair.
It's because you go against God's way.
Oh, we sure do.
Yeah, the jump scares were a bit much. I feel like they were also just really, I mean, it was like they took the handbook, where it was like,
cheap shot.
Oh, she turns off the light in front of the bathroom mirror and she pops up behind her. And then she rolls over on the bed and she's in front of her face. And it's like, okay, like I've seen all of these before, multiple times.
Yep.
And
totally.
you expect them,
Yeah. So then, the camp kind of goes on.
Right.
The pastor does, he does another little sermon. And this was like, I was uncomfortable the whole movie. It was just awful the whole time. But especially then he goes and he literally is comparing women to ABC gum.
Yep.
Already been chewed gum.
Oh, right.
Did you ever call it ABC gum?
Yeah.
Like,
in like second grade.
And you're like in elementary school.
Yeah.
And like, you go and you offer someone like, hey, do you want some ABC gum? And then if you say yes, you're like, what? You want already been chewed gum?
Yeah.
No? Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, he compares women to gum. It's like you want the gum when it's like pure and unused, but as soon as I now eat the gum and now you're gross and dirty.
Yep. Yeah. Again,
and
I know
only
we're supposed
women
to hate them.
Yeah, only women are, not men.
No, that scene made me want to stop watching this movie.
I just hated it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to watch it.
Yeah.
I think the next scene of like note is when they're at the lake on the little dot together, Shay and whatever his name is.
Oh,
I don't know.
I forget his name, but
and I don't have a lot of memory from this, but the only note that I took was their first kiss is way too grindy.
Grindy?
Yes, like when they kissed, this is their first kiss, and they were all like grinding on it. I was like, hot damn.
Oh.
Like, that's a dirty kiss.
I mean, yeah.
It was intense.
Well, because first they're like in the lake and, you know, they're definitely, their bodies are like touching and playing and swimming. So yeah, it's very sexual.
It was very sexual.
Yeah.
Also, did either of you make a note of the acorn in that scene?
No.
Well, okay, when they're sitting on the dock, Shay's just like got this giant acorn, and it's right in
pine cone
or pine cone. I think.
Okay,
yeah. Hold on.
Giant acorn.
I was like,
there's a difference.
That is wild.
I am running on like no sleep, you guys.
No, you're good. No, you yeah.
Pine cone. Oh, it's because I wrote acorn. Oh, it's a pine cone, but it's like this giant pine cone, and it's just like in between them as they're sitting on the dock. What was the point of that?
So funny.
Maybe that was God.
But it was like very intentional. It was like this big pine
Maybe
cone.
it was God.
Like when they just set up the scene, they were like, "Oh, guys, get the pine cone."
Yeah, wait, hang on. Go to the pine cone.
It was very deliberate.
I don't know.
I just wondered about that the whole time.
I have no idea.
I need to go back and find that.
Yeah.
I don't think I caught it when watching it.
So I feel like not a lot happens. Like I wrote down, I'm 3/4 of the way through and really nothing has actually happened. Because like I really feel like nothing actually happens until
just creepy
it's
vibes.
The ball.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they just set it up that, and like they allude to the fact that like if you break a rule or if you make daddy mad, you have to like go to the pastor's office.
Oh, the box.
And there's a box that you're kept in. Like, and we don't know what happens and we don't know like what it is, but we just know about it.
Yeah. And we've seen girls who have been assumed have gone to the box where because, you know, it's a big camp, you know, we're following the 4, but you see girls where it's like they are not talking to anyone, not making eye contact. I think they're like praying during the movie. So we're supposed to assume, oh, okay, you know, they say the box isn't real, but clearly it is real. Something is happening.
Yeah.
Which again, kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But I feel like it didn't quite pay off.
No, I agree.
I think wonderful idea.
Yeah, once it finally makes itself known.
Right.
I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah. I was like, wait, that's it?
Right.
That's so stupid.
Like not great, but also like that's that's what was making them act like that.
Yeah.
Like it's not adding up.
No, it does
not.
Math
isn't mathing.
No.
Well, and we also see Lacey kissing a boy.
Yes.
When Shay's on her way back. So so we see she's starting to get corrupted.
Yeah.
And and the next thing I wrote down was, and I forget where this came from, but it said that Lilith required a womanly vessel who has tasted fruit.
Yes, we do learn that.
So I forget how we learned that, but basically Lilith can come and visit and, you know, be resurrected or whatever, as long as a slut brings her back.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes. Exactly.
She has one requirement.
Yes. Yes.
Some chewed gum has to come get her.
Yep.
Get it, girl. Get it. And
well, so Joe, when I feel like Lacey's kissing a boy, Shay is out swimming with the guy. Yeah. Joe is also meeting with her guy. So like they were all gone, right? There was supposed to be this like group.
Yeah, like small group.
Small group. I think that's what they call it. Yeah, small group. And so they all missed it to go be with the guys. So we kind of get a scene where like they're all kind of in trouble, but Joe is especially.
Yeah, because she was doing it.
She was doing it.
She was doing it.
She was doing it.
She was fornicating with a boy.
She was fornicating.
And she thinks Shay went and told on her because Shay saw her.
Right.
Right.
And they take her away. The elders. They take her away.
The elders have taken her.
Yep. And then at one point Shay is like in the pastor's office being like, where is she? And she sees that he has a door behind his desk, which had been alluded to, that was like thing was back
That's
there
where the box is.
And it has like a padlock on it, and she's like, let me in there. and he lets her in, and it's just like his robes, like his clothes.
Yeah, it's just a regular closet.
Now, why the fork that has a padlock on it, I couldn't tell you, but you know,
maybe it's expensive clothes,
right? But then, like, they're getting ready for the ball because that's like the big finale.
Which, of course, there's a ball. You know,
Right.
like I wrote that in my notes after they said it. I wrote, "Of course, there's a ball."
Of course.
Well, but before the ball happens, there is another scene that we should make note of, where it's another night that. Wait, hold on. What's her name? Oh, Shay. Jesus. Okay, sorry. Another scene we should make note of is one night Shay ends up meeting up with her boy. And it's in kind of this like abandoned house.
Right.
I forgot about that scene.
And it's kind of like romantically set up. And it's just this abandoned house, except there's a bare mattress on the ground.
Yep.
I don't remember this at all. I think at this point I had like just fully gone on my phone and was like scrolling.
Okay.
Because I have no recollection.
Yeah, so they're like starting to make out. And I noticed, like, again, this whole movie made me uncomfortable, but as they're making out, and from what we have, like, the information we have so far is that Shay is kind of saying that she's a virgin.
Right. Because she told her dad that. Like, he asked her, "Are you pure for me?"
Yeah. Yeah. Oh.
I could actually vomit.
We're all going to go throw up real quick.
Yeah.
Like, we'll be right back.
So at some point, one of the dads also said something like, "You're such a good girl." And
yes.
I wrote down, I actually threw up in my mouth. But so as Shay's making out with the guy, he starts to, like, the way he has his hands, you know, at first it
this
seems
part
like
I remember.
romantic, but then he's like strangling her almost. But then the door keeps opening and you hear this knocking at the door, and it's like someone is trying to get in the cabin.
Oh, that's okay. It's coming back to me. Vaguely. Yeah. Yes.
And so the boy is kind of thinking like it's his friends messing with him. But really it's Lilith is trying to protect Shay.
But wouldn't Lilith want her to, like, get some?
Well, you know, because she has a higher bar.
Okay.
Yeah, because Lilith knows what we don't know yet, that we end up finding out the boys are in on it.
Right.
Like the boys that the girls end up making out with and doing it with, like, they're actually part of the fucking patriarchy.
They're hired spies.
Yeah. So,
which I did not see that coming.
No, I didn't either. That one actually got me.
Not a great movie, but I feel like that was actually good. And it did kind of provide some, I wrote in my notes, it's like, okay, I feel like the chemistry isn't great between the girls and the guys. Like, even the scene where Shay and the guy go swimming, you know, like, I think I wrote in my notes, like, oh my God, we're so spontaneous. Let's go swim in the river. You know, like, it's very, And I, you know, when we learned that it's like, actually, all the guys were informants who were actually testing the girls. But it's like, okay, you know what? I didn't expect that.
Yeah. Right.
And it kind of explains the way that they interact with them, where it was a little more like, very, very
doing the
like
job.
Very doing the job. Very like, oh, this is what we think they would like. You know, let's go to the cabin with the mattress.
Exactly. Like, even when you know, the guy thinks that it's his friends messing with him, he shouts out to them. He's like, "I'm trying to get laid here."
Right.
Which then makes Shay mad because she's like, "Wait, is that what this is?"
Yeah, it's like, wait, what?
That's not what we were, right? But anyway.
Yeah.
So a couple other things that happen is, like, Shay keeps seeing these feathers all around, and I don't even know that we ever got an explanation of
we did not.
What that was about.
No, we did not.
No.
But, like, it was very obvious that he keeps finding these feathers, but we don't know why.
No, there was no follow-up.
I don't know if
that.
Like, did they use a feather in the ritual?
No. Well, they did because it meant air. The feather represented air.
Right.
But then
that still doesn't make any sense.
But why did she keep finding it?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe because Lilith is an angel? She's losing feathers? Angel's wings?
No, she's not an angel, though. She would be a
demon.
Yeah, she's not an angel. She's a fallen angel.
She's only a demon according to the fucking men. Like,
yeah, but those are the ones that run the show, so.
But not in Lilith's world, they don't.
Well, no, I think, like, God would.
I don't know. I'm trying to.
No, she's a demon.
Yeah, okay.
She's,
Right.
or at the very least, a fallen angel. Like, she's not.
I don't know if they explain the feathers.
No, I don't think
now
they
that I'm
do.
trying to think back on it.
Okay.
So anyways, it's ball night, and they're all getting
Yep.
ready for daddy, and Joe is still gone, and Shay is like very upset about this. Like, she's like, we've got to find Joe.
Yeah.
But she's gone.
And Shay even had confronted the pastor trying to find.
Right, because that's when
Right.
the door.
But also when she did that, he also started coughing up black goo.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
And he just made her leave. Yeah. So at this point, Lacey is very upset because she thinks that she ruined her purity with her dad because she kissed a boy. And so she is very upset with herself. Like, she's really worked up and upset. Her one friend offers her like an anti-anxiety pill, and she's like, no, I deserve this. Like, but so she's just on edge. So like, going into the ball, there's a lot of tension.
Didn't she then though take at the ball?
And then,
but she didn't when they were offered. She took them later. And she like took a lot of them.
Yeah.
So we go to the ball, and eventually Joe shows up in her dress, just like, no comment. Let's just go forward.
Yeah.
Like, she's just like, no, I'm fine. Let's go.
Right.
Like,
you can tell she's been through some stuff, but like just kind of wants to move on.
Right.
Yeah.
But then we also get the revelation. Joe mentions to Shay, like, hey, my dad, like, our dad didn't just learn about you 2 months ago.
Right.
He's known about you the whole time.
Yeah.
He and my mom argued about it because you're born of a side piece.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So tension is starting to build in the ball for sure. But before we get to the climax, maybe we should talk about what we're sipping on.
Speaking of climax.
Hey! Ba-doom, ching!
Okay, hang on, I have to pull the recipe.
Yeah. And also, we should point out, because I think we haven't mentioned this yet, part of the thing that happens in this camp is that all the girls must wear all white.
Oh my gosh, yeah. We haven't talked about
their
that.
clothes must be all white. Their undergarments must be all white. They all have to just have nothing but white.
Yeah. So we thought it was appropriate. It's a twofold cocktail. One, it is white in appearance. And also it's like we're fighting the patriarchy.
Yeah.
For these girls, and we are drinking a Screaming Orgasm. It's got vodka, coffee liqueur, Amaretto, Irish cream liqueur, half and half, and milk. So it's a very milky cocktail.
Cocktail. I love the flavor of Amaretto.
Me too.
So good.
Yes.
Like, it's sweet. It's sweet, so I can't have too much of it.
Right.
But it's just yummy.
Yeah. Yeah. So we thought this was a good for solidarity with these girls,
Yeah. I feel like this was a good one.
Yeah. All right. So we're in our white gowns at the ball, and there's like dancing with their dads.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
They're getting ready to like sign their contracts.
Oh, yeah, they have to sign their contracts.
And they say these pledges.
Yeah.
And
the guys who we now know are informants are like playing security.
Yes, the guards with swords.
Yeah, they're not letting anyone out. Oh, and of course, on the way into the ball, we realize that Pastor What's-His-Face has a gun.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, because
we did see it earlier.
We saw that from the beginning scene.
He it was concealed carry.
Oh yeah. Like he shows it,
but this time he's like
the whole time. I'm like, dude, why do you need a gun?
Right. Well,
like,
right.
Purity camp.
Shoot the devil.
I guess. Or intimidate the women while you assault them. Jesus,
pillage them. Yeah. Anyways. So I don't know.
Back to the ball.
It's weird and it's uncomfortable. And then how does it?
So I think, they're trying to get to the contracts. I forget if they're going like one by one, but eventually we get to Shay.
Yes.
And finally, Shay lets them know that she can't sign it because she's not a virgin.
Yes. Mic drop.
Yep.
Yes. And then after I wrote that in my notes, I wrote, in the cage she goes. So I think at this point we see the box.
Yeah, they like roll it out.
The scary box everyone's been talking about. And it's just like a cage.
It looks like like circus animals when they used to have those like trains.
Yeah, that's what it is.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah. Which I don't know. I mean, like, I don't want to be locked in a cage, but also
it's very open.
I kind of
bars.
Based on the reactions we got from the other girls,
right?
I expected the chokey. Okay.
Yes.
Or like sensory deprivation.
Yeah.
Like something. But this seems like a pretty good box to be trapped in.
What a throwback reference, the chokey. I want to watch Matilda.
Matilda's such a
if
good
you need
movie.
something to like make you believe in cinema again.
Watch Matilda. I love Matilda. It's a favorite.
It's one of my favorites.
Oh my gosh, we totally have to watch Matilda later.
Yes.
So good.
So we see the cage. I think at this point Shay is shoved in.
Yeah, and then all of it happens very fast.
So it's all happening quickly. And during all of this, Lacey, who we know has taken all of the anti-anxiety meds. She's kind of stumbling, but also I think tries to take the mic away from her dad. She's like, oh, like I have something to say. Like she's been trying to say something.
Yeah.
And she finally takes the mic from her dad. And she's done. Like she's kind of finally reached her end. And she's like, Dad, I failed your stupid test too. She goes, she gets the gun away from her dad, and we get death number 1 in this movie.
Yeah.
When Lacey shoots herself. And I was like, okay, like I did not expect that.
Same. That one I did not see coming.
That one, it was like, okay.
Agreed. Yeah.
Phone is back down. I'm listening.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's like when shit like starts to happen, because then Shay is in the cage and it like,
I feel like she got possessed by Shay.
That's what I wrote.
Is what I wrote, that she gets possessed.
She's possessed.
And now suddenly she can move things and freeze and control, like with her brain.
Right.
And like freeze people and control people. It's like she's the puppet master and they are now the men are now the puppets.
And she makes all the contracts go on fire.
Oh yeah, that was
like she makes all the contracts go on fire.
And then I think she lets Lilith take over. Like I feel like it was like, okay, I'm locked in this cage.
Yeah, like here we go.
It's hitting the fan.
She might have even said like, Lilith, help me. Like,
I think it was something like that.
Yeah. And then all the men are like in a row, and all of them, like the boys and the fathers, are like in a line dance.
Yeah.
Situation.
Yeah. And then Shay / Lilith is, controlling their actions and then making them like they start banging their heads violently into the ground, like making themselves all bloody.
And I think the pastor had been throwing up more black shit, right?
I think so.
Like at some point during this, I think he was throwing up black stuff again, and
and their eyes kind of go black too. Which we had seen happen a couple of times. Like Shay's seen their eyes kind of go black to like basically just symbolize that they're evil.
Yeah, and at this point, like all the girls are like lining up behind them in solidarity.
Yeah,
like controlling the men. And I wrote down like, do the dads die? Like what?
I thought so.
I think so. They end up. It's almost like in Star Wars when Darth Vader like strangles the dude.
Yeah,
like with his mind. It's almost like that's what was happening. Like all of a sudden they were choking and being strangled.
I just couldn't tell like if they died or were just like knocked out. Like
I think they're dead.
I assume dead. Yeah, because it's like first the heads against the floor,
right,
and then it kind of chokes, and they all fall, and they're laying there for like. Yeah, there's no sign of life.
Yeah,
I think at the end there.
Yeah.
And then all the women are just.
And then Lilith like becomes
rollicking.
Her own person.
Yeah, she's
right. Like, then there's
alive again.
And Lilith with her bad dye job, and they're like
walking.
Yeah, they're walking in the forest.
I will. I did like some of the shots, like the openings scene I thought was kind of picturesque. And I also thought the end scene where all the women are kind of walking through the meadow or whatever, I thought it was pretty.
Yeah.
Well,
the setting was really pretty.
Honestly, I think like that's my biggest takeaway from this movie is that like the premise is actually good. Like the story, that could actually be really fucking creepy. Like it could be a good movie.
Oh, totally.
It's just not.
It just wasn't. It was like total B movie, but not like not like a good B movie.
Yeah, not in like a classic way, just in a like, wow, that was an hour and a half of my life I can't get back.
Yeah.
Way.
No, yeah, the setup, again, it's like the camp was kind of interesting. The story of the camp was interesting. The dads, I hated all of them. So like I feel like the setting was actually pretty good. Like we get into this little world. I think the problem was the horror.
Yeah.
Like the scares I thought weren't scary enough. The ritual was like, okay, it's, I guess kind of interesting. Like the box, like it was a little too just like generic, but it didn't quite land for me. Like I didn't feel that scared.
I feel like it was generic and juvenile.
Yes. Like if a 14-year-old wrote this movie, I would believe you.
And
or directed
and produced and starred in and For me, I felt the entire time watching it. In fact, I will say this, and I know we kind of already talked about this. We tend to not talk about the movies, but I couldn't not tell you ladies as I watched this. I felt too old to be watching this movie.
Yeah,
I just felt like I am too much of an adult to be watching this movie at all. Like I'll watch Matilda.
Right.
But this movie, I was like, I'm too old for this shit.
Yeah,
it's too much.
Agreed.
Like, I feel like just out of place.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I don't belong watching this movie.
Yeah. No, for sure. Which I feel like was part of what was surprising is I think in the intro, we learned that this is a Blumhouse movie.
Yes.
It said Blumhouse movie, which again, I it's kind of like when you see A24, right? Like you have certain expectations of like, okay, like this is probably going to be at least decently scary. So I think that also kind of set up for me where I was like, okay, like Blumhouse, they have a lot of solid horror movies. This is going to be good. But the horror part was what was missing.
Yep.
Well, and then even just knowing Pilgrim, which we know, which was also, here's the thing, it was also a bad B movie, but it was so bad it was good.
Yes.
I actually loved it because it embraced the bad, whereas this one I feel like it just missed the mark.
It was just mundane.
Yeah. No, it's like, is there seriously, like, I was trying to look up, like, Blumhouse movies where it's like, is this seriously, like, the same people who brought us, like, Megan and Get Out and The Invisible Man? Oh, my God, I feel like we need to do that.
Oh, yeah.
For this. Oh, I haven't seen that one.
That's the one with, no, I know for a fact we watched it all together.
No, we did.
From Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah. Elizabeth. Not Olsen.
Oh, yes, we did watch
What's
it
together.
Her name? Elizabeth.
I need to look this up.
No, we did. We did watch it together. That was good. Because didn't we go to the theater for it?
I think so.
We might need to cut this
Elizabeth Moss.
Elizabeth
Moss.
Yeah, no, we did. We watched it together. Yeah.
Well, with all that said, there's not much to go from here, but maybe we should get into some psych.
All
right, and just remember, kids, she's not a real doctor, but these are not real bad actors. I mean, not real.
No, some of the actors were okay.
No, I know.
They did the best with what they had.
You know what? That's true.
That's true.
That's fair.
Don't hate the players, hate the game.
Yeah.
So here's where I went with this. Obviously, this movie was not subtly about the patriarchy.
Right.
No.
Right.
So let's just have a conversation about the patriarchy.
I'm always ready for that.
So the word literally means the rule of the father. And it involves a lot of shit that we've all dealt with all of our lives, us being, women. But really it involves both a conscious and an unconscious bias. And that women are inferior to men, or that men are superior. They hold the power, and it's rightfully so. They are in charge. They make the rules. And the society will share these beliefs in that. And that's kind of what makes a patriarchal society, is if, the general consensus of a culture is that. And there's debates on, okay, where did this come from? Patriarchy. Is it from biological differences in men and women? Is it kind of naturally that way? Or did society create it? And there's differing views. I personally believe that society created it. It is not that we are innately weaker or less than men, but that freaking patriarchy made it. So really, when there's a patriarchy, there's power struggles. It's all about control and conformity. And those in lower status, women, are the ones that are expected to submit to the will of the men. So a little bit of history. Now, I could read for like days and days on like the history of the patriarchy.
Oh,
it's very complicated.
Teach a class.
It's super freaking complicated.
There are classes on it.
100%. Yeah.
So just some tidbits that I did not know before, or wasn't super aware of, that I thought were interesting. So in Western cultures, women were actually historically a lot more equal to men from like the 6th to the 11th centuries. So really kind of this control that the men took over the women happened a little bit later. And really the Western Christianity interpretation of the Bible led to the more traditional, like quote unquote traditional bullshit we have now. So it's really interesting because I never really thought about how much patriarchy and religion is just completely intertwined and feeds off of one another. But it is the same thing. Like one is the other. Like it's crazy when you think about it. In Eastern theology, it was more patriarchal from the get-go. From like, it's like, do I say patriarchal or patriarchal? I think it's patriarchal.
Patriarchal. Petrol.
Petrol?
I don't know.
Petrol.
Patriarchy. I don't even
Petri dish.
I don't even know what the word is anymore.
But so it's been more patriarchal from the get-go, like as going back 2nd, 3rd century, and really it's all about denying women's rights to their own body, marriage, divorce. So some people will say it's about like the division of labor is what kind of created this. So females, it's your job to give birth, whereas males is their job to be the hunter, the provider, the protector. And so here's my issue with like this stance on the patriarchy is that it's saying that, well, it's a division of labor, and so one job is considered more important than the other. But when you think about it, if pre-patriarchy, you just have these division of labor and then suddenly one is deemed more important than the other, how is creating life, which leads to the existence of humans, how would that ever have been considered less than getting food?
Agreed.
Like both are needed to survive, but like I just don't understand.
But one is needed more so because the woman could have gone and figured out food on her own.
Yeah, like eventually.
If we're being honest here,
she would have been fine.
So like I don't feel like you can just say it's that the men's job is historically more important, because that's absolutely not freaking true.
Well, according to the men.
Well, exactly. So like within the context of the patriarchy, of course, then you would see it that way.
Yeah.
But that's because it's like the chicken and the egg. Like what came first, right?
Yeah.
Oh, this topic gets me very upset.
I know you're getting a little flushed.
No, I know. I'm like,
are there a lot of like women-led cults? I'm trying to think. I feel like, really, I feel like
I
all
would
the
be
big
a
ones
part
I
of
can
that.
think of
like
are
I would rather be a part of that,
right,
than anything else. Like,
let's do it.
I know. I'm here
we
for
can start one.
Yeah.
Like
we'll be like cool about it though. Like won't be like one of those.
I feel like we would have a
cults.
great cult.
I think Brianna, you would be the leader.
Yeah, probably.
I think so.
Don't think, right?
I
Like,
think so.
we'll be your lackey.
Right.
But I feel like you would be the leader.
That's the best compliment I think I've ever been given in my whole life.
I just thought of that scene from The Office, like that quote with Creed, where he's talking about joining a cult, and he's like, you make more money as a leader, but you have more fun as a follower.
Right. Yes. Exactly.
Love it.
Love. I'm
Love
here
it.
for it.
All right. Well, we're going to start the cult of the spooky sipper.
Yes. Stay tuned. Oh.
So when you kind of look at this from a developmental psychopathology role, women are taught about roles and their expected behavior from birth.
Right.
So it's really hard, the patriarchy, because we can't get out of it. We can fight it and we can, figure out ways to challenge it. But really from the time, even before we are born, there's gender reveal parties. Right. There's like,
oh God, yeah.
Babies that like, why do we assign them different characteristics based off of their genitalia? Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But women are described as sweet and pretty, and men are like, oh, he's so tough. Like, it's like, that's a baby.
Right.
It's like, a baby.
No
right.
They're mush.
Yeah.
It's like a 9-pound sack of meat.
Yep, it is. Exactly what a baby is.
But even like in psychology, there's a lot of just ridiculous history when it comes to patriarchy views. So like Freud had the whole father complex,
right?
Where like, with women and their father and like wanting to, is it that women want to kill their father or sleep with their father?
I think it's a little bit of both, and that they themselves want to like become a father.
Like we wish, we wish we had penises.
That's like a
penis
big
envy.
Yeah, like that's a big Freud thing. Like, so it's a little bit of everything.
Not want one.
No,
listen, I don't.
Maybe for a dating experience, like what it would be like.
No, here's the thing. Like, I don't need one, but like
envy is a big word.
Like, I think I already have big dick energy.
You do.
I don't think I need an actual.
You don't need it
for that.
Yeah, you'd be unstoppable though.
Your metaphorical penis is good enough.
Yeah, exactly. It really is. Thank you. Wow.
Man.
Love this.
I don't know how to move on from that. So there's another pretty famous psychologist, Jung, and his kind of thoughts on the patriarchy is more that women's relationship with their dad really leads to their personality and whether they're going to be either like conforming. So they'll conform to things and they'll kind of, be good girls if they have a good relationship with their dad, or they'll be rebellious and not conform to society's expectations if they had a bad relationship with their dad.
You know what's so weird, as a side note, when we went out the other night drinking, like, this was exactly with not talking about this movie at all, but we were talking about the patriarchy and also like daddy issues. I don't know why.
Oh, we were.
Interesting. Yeah. You ladies were.
It was so rough. And you know what's so funny is like, I actually didn't feel that bad, but I was that bad. Like, it was bad.
I on the Uber home was feeling car sick.
Oh God.
AKA like I just needed to look out the window, so like I didn't.
Oh, see, I wasn't there.
But I didn't. Like then I got home and I was fine.
Yeah.
But like I think I actually did just get car sick.
I think part of why I was so sick was like the drinks were just really sugary.
They were.
And
that's so dangerous.
Like, So anyways, we digress.
But yeah, I was having flashbacks to like, do you remember when I used to get car sick?
Oh my gosh, yes. It was so bad. Like, she always had to have a window seat. It had to be rolled down a little.
Yeah, because
or the front seat. Like, but yeah, you always had to have an outside seat, and it was all the time.
I actually feel like the last couple of years it started to return.
Weird.
I do think the other night I was I was drunk, but like I think I was more car sick than anything.
Weird.
But yeah, like I have just this one memory of we were on like a long car drive, and for some reason I had drank tomato juice.
Oh God.
Oh.
Yeah.
And this was in our minivan.
Oh my God, yes.
And so we were on like this long car drive somewhere, and I got car sick, and I puked tomato juice in our car, and then we had to like be in the car for hours.
Oh no.
Nice trip.
Yeah.
Oh,
Trip canceled.
yeah.
No, it's
That's rough. Tomato juice would burn. That would hurt.
like I have PTSD.
Yeah, that one would hurt.
Oh.
I think we were talking about the patriarchy.
Yeah, anyway.
What? I don't know. Moving on.
So just like a little bit about it because, the consequences of patriarchy.
Yeah. This movie.
This movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Really, it can range from things like pay gaps, which we all know. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir.
Right.
I mean,
but it can also be things like, abuse, violence, things like honor killing,
Mm-hmm.
or even just like lightly like subtle marketing, just being alienated and ostracized. It's the whole gamut of the human experience can be impacted.
Yeah.
By the fucking patriarchy.
Right.
And when it comes to mental health, really the patriarchy perpetuates this social construct of pressuring individuals to conform to what is a very narrow definition of acceptable behavior.
Yeah.
For both the men and the women. So
Right.
it's not just that women suffer from the patriarchy, men do too.
Yeah.
But really it's just these very narrow definitions of what a man and woman is. And we know that it's not just man and women. There's a whole spectrum of identities, of sexualities, of gender like expressions. And if you don't fit into that very like quote unquote traditional, which is really not actually traditional, it's very constructed, it just can really severely impact your mental health.
Yeah.
So I feel like I can't talk about this too much more, else it's like I'm just on a soapbox.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
No, I think that's a good summary though.
Really, like to summarize it, this movie's about the patriarchy, and patriarchy is really bad, especially for women's mental health.
Yes, amen.
And don't conform. And really, this movie did absolutely get at that.
Yeah, it did.
It did. Yeah.
Agreed.
The only other psych tidbit I wanted to bring up is because we've talked about this in other movies, the psychology of various colors.
Oh, yeah.
So we kind of talked about this a little bit when I did the dream analysis of Shay's dream. But let's talk about the color white, because that was very prominent in this movie.
Yeah.
So the psychological meaning of white, it represents purity.
Right.
Name of the movie. Innocence, wholeness, and being complete. So it can also represent new beginnings, kind of like you wipe your slate clean. And it can be a blank canvas to kind of create a new story. White can. So some positive associations with white is that white can be considered, neutral, hygienic, clean, refreshing, simple, and innocent. Also hope and optimism. But some negative associations with white could be like it's cold, it has a barrier, it's unfriendly, it's empty, and it can represent indecision. So I think obviously the women are made to wear white to represent the pureness.
Right.
But also, be like this clean slate, this innocent, but really it can also kind of like then make them kind of feel empty and cold, and that, they're nothing but this clean slate. They have no personality.
Totally.
Other than what the men in the movie make them.
I can see that.
So it makes them susceptible to this manipulation by the dads to kind of mold them into what they want them to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
So there's a little bit of the psychology of the color white. It's a little light today.
No, I think
it's good.
There's it's pretty obvious where you could go with this one. So I mean, I think you summarized it pretty well though. Like
someday we'll have to do like a deep dive into like some more theology versus psychology and like demons and the Bible stuff. But
because I feel like there's a lot there.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a movie. That would be fun actually.
I know, right?
I'm trying to think of like a good movie for that.
Maybe The Exorcist.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, we might have to like plan that one with time.
Yeah,
that would
like
be a
guest
fun one to
star
like
priest.
really,
I like
really
it.
get into.
Get
I like
to
it.
really get into it. I
Yep.
love
Yeah,
it.
Totally.
I love it. So, do we have any fun or facts about this movie or anything?
No, there's like none on here. You know what? I'll double check again. Because I mean, usually I like to do DVD commentaries, but obviously that didn't exist because this was
Right.
a Hulu movie.
Yeah.
So I just went to IMDb and I was like, tell me a fun fact. There's one. There's one fact, one trivia piece. And it's that the actress that played Joe and the actor that played Pastor Seth had previously worked together on Heart of Dixie.
Wow. Fascinating.
Riveting.
That's
I did
that's
like
the end of my fun fact.
I did like a very minor Google search on Into the Dark. Like,
oh,
I was like, what is this, like American Horror Story or like what
yeah.
is this? And it's strange because there are a lot of big names that are in different anthologies actually, and that like signed on for it. And I feel like it kind of, at least from what I gathered, it had a good running start, but just didn't really pan out to what I was hoping.
Okay.
That's kind of the vibe I got from where it went.
Yeah,
because like I had not even heard of either of these movies. Like I only heard of Pilgrim because we like typed into Google Thanksgiving horror movie.
Right.
Like,
yeah, no, literally.
I mean, yeah. So,
which is interesting because between the three of us, we watch so many horror things that you would think at some point Hulu
would have come across
recommended this,
exactly,
suggested it somewhere.
I know.
Yeah.
No, but you know what? Actually, I think that's okay because I think this movie was pretty like surface level.
So is our psych.
So
and
is our
research.
so is our episode.
So is our
Our episode research and psych research is also surface level.
I'm actually intrigued to hear about your reviews. Are we ready for that?
I think so.
So, okay, because on Spooky Sips, we don't give stars, we give sips. I'll even go first. Okay, so here's where I'm at. I've seen a lot of bad movies. Like I really have. But I have to be honest, as a movie, this was one of the worst movies I think I've ever seen. No, I'm serious.
It wasn't good.
Because here's the thing, when there's other movies like Pilgrim, for instance, that are bad in a great way.
Yeah.
Like there's some that I hold on to. This, I ended the movie and I was like, what did I even just, what? Did anything happen in that movie? Like, what am I? So I got to give it a 1. That's where I'm at. Like, I think maybe if you're into this type of horror, yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
But if you just like horror as a genre, I'd say pass.
It's horror light, like if you're like, I'm really trying to ease in.
Like you almost remember those Goosebump books.
Yes.
It's like if Goosebump was a movie. But I think that could even be amazing. But
I freaking loved those books so much.
So that's where I'm at. I'm a 1.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also really did not like this movie. And although I was uncomfortable and some of the jump scares got me, I was not happy that I watched this movie at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
In fact, I believe I even said I would rather have watched Twilight.
Yes, I bet you
did say that.
I bet you would have.
I know I'm a Twihard.
Yep.
But I'm giving it a half.
All right.
A half.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I really didn't like it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't think I can really give it more than a 1. Because I think there is some good you can take from this movie. I hated all the dads and the setup, but I think that was intentional. So that means they did it well.
They get something for that. They get something.
They get some credit for that. They get the. See, and again, it's like this is why I feel like there was so much potential, because I feel like we've all talked about how the scariest thing is like things that we could actually experience in our real world. Yes. I would 100% believe that this camp exists
Yeah.
I'm sure.
And
I bet it does.
I'm
true
sure it does.
horrors happen in them. So it's like they even had that setup where they could have gone as like, this is a true horror that is happening in your backyard.
Exactly.
But it just, again, the horror element is what was missing. So
it fell flat.
I think for us, I can't give it more than a 1. So I'm going to go with a 1 because I think there's some positives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of us.
Yeah.
All right.
If you're looking for something to throw in the background.
Right.
This could be a background horror movie.
Maybe.
I wouldn't
maybe.
Even then. Even then. All right, but we're going to do you right next time because next time we are watching Train to Busan. I am very excited for this one.
I know nothing about this movie.
Okay. Oh, okay.
I know nothing.
Wait, like zero?
Don't look anything up. Just
I've
watch
never
it.
heard of it other than you saying it. I know nothing about it.
I've never seen it, but just watch it.
So I'm just going to watch it going in blind.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I haven't seen it either, but I've heard a lot about it. So I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. All right. So get watching and get sipping, and we'll see you next time on Spooky Sips.
Okay.
Bye. Adorable.
Thank you for listening to Spooky Sips. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you're listening. To stay up to date on all the spooky things we're up to, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at spookysips_podcast. And if you want to help support the podcast, consider buying us a coffee, or really a cocktail. We are completely independent, so every little bit goes a long way to keeping our podcast running and improving. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.